So what's your plan after? That's kind of the question I've been getting from not the travelers that are most similar to me, which is kind of just free spirited, go with the flow, but the travelers that are like on vacation and they have to go back to their reality, which is kind of suffering. And one thing I've noticed is when people ask me that question, and it's been both male and female, it's like they want an answer that's more boring than their job, so they feel good about themselves. And I'm kind of at the point where I'm done telling people I'm going to do YouTube and I'm going to do music as a living, because they follow up with the question of, no, seriously, like, what are you going to do? And so now I'm just convinced where I'm just going to give the answer of, yeah, after these months of travel, I'm just going to go work at an Amazon warehouse and just save up and buy a house and get a wife and have kids. That's what I'm going to do. And there's this like concept of like when you tell people your dreams and aspirations, where if they think negatively about it, it kind of puts like a contrast or like an opposition to your, I guess, like energy towards it. So it kind of gives you like pushback in a sense. And I think it's kind of true, just because I think I'm really good at music. I think I'm decent at video editing. I think I have a personality for the internet. But I meet a lot of people that I feel genuinely like me and talking to me, but then once I tell them about what I really want to do, I think it sort of reminds them of what they're doing, and they give pushback, and they really do convince themselves that music and doing something on the internet is not a viable option for a living. And of course that's like my dream to do that, but I'm also open to the option of fun and exciting. If I can find a job that's fun and exciting in whatever form that is, whether it's cleaning this or working in a hotel or becoming a pilot, I'm super open to all that, as long as it's fun and exciting. So it's not so much I have a specific idea of an occupation that I want, but it's more I have a specific characteristic and feeling that I want from the job. It sort of reminds me, I was talking to a girl, she was from Israel, and I think she was like 19, no, she was 24. She had just finished her 3.5 years serving in the military. And I was like, so what's like most interesting to you? And I go, we're talking like, how long do you plan to travel? And I kind of posed the question too, which is like, what do you plan to do like after traveling? But of course I don't go in with the intent of, that's a dumb option. Like, you should probably just get like a marketing job or promotion job or advertising job. And she goes, well, I'm doing like a combo study of, she said psychology and biology. It's like a combo. And I go, oh, it's super interesting. And I'm like, what type of jobs sort of require that? And she's younger than me, and it kind of reinforced my idea of fun and exciting for the type of job that I want, because she goes, I don't know. She goes, but I do know I like psychology, and I do know I like biology. So I'm just going to study them and figure it out at the end. And it makes a lot of sense, because I remember one guy I met, the story I I told in a previous video that he was studying to be an attorney, and in the middle of it, he found out that he hated it, but he thought maybe once he starts practicing law and starts earning money, he'll enjoy it a little bit more, which he didn't. So he ended up working in a hostel. So I think if we start living our life with not so much the end goal exactly, but more so the characteristics of the end goal. Because he kind of chose, now don't get me wrong, people do passionately want to become involved in law and be an attorney, and they're happy doing it. But I think you have more of a bigger dartboard, that when you do throw your dart to go, you have more room for success if you start from the thought of what's most interesting to me, or what has been most interesting to me. Because this girl could very well be in the middle of studying psychology and biology and realize that she only likes watching videos on Saturdays about it. She doesn't want to do it every day. But I think you have more of a chance of landing a sort of lifestyle, not specifically landing a job, but landing a lifestyle that's a little more tuned to who you are as a person when you start with what interests you the most and studying your interests rather than studying for the profession. Boom, mic drop. That was pretty deep, right? But it's such an interesting thing that I started noticing when people ask, like, what do you plan to do? But the people that are similar to me, they either ask that question and they're genuinely interested, or they just don't ask at all, you know? And sometimes your lifestyle sort of changes as you grow. I was talking to a guy just yesterday from California, and he was a little older, but I wanted to talk to him just to see like what he was all about. And especially since he was American, I could talk pretty fast. So it was nice to get back into the American speed of speaking English. And he told me this story that in his 30s, he was riding a bike on PCH in Orange County. And he got hit by a car. And the driver was a drunk driver. 4:30 p.m. in the middle of the day. And flew him, there's like two sides of PCH. There's like the beach side and then the actual road side. And flew him across the beach side into the roadside, and he almost died. And we talked for about an hour and a half about this story, and I was interrupting him with questions. And basically, he said he realized that he was living life not how he wanted to, and he was too shy or didn't have the courage at the time to really do what he wanted. And he said looking back, like, this gave him the confidence to just up and quit his job and begin doing contract work. And that's what he's been doing for the past 8 years, and it's been working for him. And he's actually the one that gave me an idea of teaching English abroad and kind of just hopping between different countries in Southeast Asia, and even having like homes in each country. I mean, not necessarily buying, but like a specific neighborhood that you always go back to in each country. And it never really dawned on me. Of course, you see videos of people retiring to Thailand or people retiring in Vietnam, but they have like a pension or they have saved money. But I never thought of kind of being retired but still working at the same time. Just a different sort of lifestyle that never really dawned on me, because usually when you think of, you know, living somewhere, you're stationary, you're in a particular place for a long period of time. But I never thought about actually hopping different countries in that sense. But anyways, he said, I asked him when he was in the hospital, I go, so do you remember the moment when you were like, okay, I'm done, I'm going to quit my job? And he goes, it didn't come right away. He goes, but the first thing that did come to mind was, and this, he was saying this was back in 2010. And back in 2010, smartphones had just kind of popped on the scene. I remember smartphones being out 2009. So 2010 was like that was like the early adopters, was like '09, maybe even '08. But I remember to have a smartphone, you had to pay for a data package every month, and the standard was like $30. So you would buy this new phone, but then you would also have to pay for this data package every month. Now it's not like that, but that was the way it used to be. And so it's a little expensive, a little pricey. And he said the first thing he did when he got out of the hospital was buy a new smartphone. Because here he was working this job, stable, saving money, and for what? And he told me, he goes, for what? I'm saving all this money for what? He goes, I don't even get to enjoy it. He goes, does he need a smartphone? No. But does he want a smartphone? Yes. And he said he's always been a person that is very good at deciding what is a need and what is a want. And he was very clear that this was a want. But he indulged and he bought it. And he said after that, then he started really thinking for his own enjoyment rather than thinking for what he was supposed to do. And one thing he said was, he doesn't remember the quote, exactly who it came from, but he said, money isn't really yours until you spend it. And it makes sense. Because yeah, it's in the bank and you're looking at the number when you're looking at your phone, or you see the receipt from your bank of how much you have, but it's really not yours until you spend it to buy food or buy an experience or buy a new smartphone. So it was a really interesting thing that he said, and to me, it makes sense. But anyways, he said he sort of needed that moment of getting hit by a car to wake up to start living his life the way he wants to live. And it kind of sucks because he showed me he has scars on his knees, scars when he takes off his glasses. He even showed me, he's like, if you look closely, he goes, I have like sunspots on this side, but none on this side. And that was because I just skidded across the road and just completely shaved off a layer of skin. And as he was talking, I started thinking, man, at least I didn't have to go through that. But it was still sort of a tough decision to just quit my job, sell my car, and just up and leave. I didn't really need that stimulus, which I spoke in a previous video, that sometimes it kind of leads to a quicker way of achieving a goal or mindset or lifestyle that you really want to achieve, but the only way to get there is you would have to go through some sort of misfortunate or unfortunate event. And so when he was talking, I think it was really mature of him to really think about it in the sense of how has this experience helped me in life and got me to the point where he is. And so at the end of our conversation, I did ask him, I go, honestly, he goes, you're a smart guy. I go, you would probably get to the point of, switching to this sort of lifestyle eventually. But at this age, this version of you, if you were still back home, and he started shaking his head because he knew where I was going. I go, where do you think you would be if you didn't have the accident? And he goes, I would still be working, and I would still be trying to climb up the ladder of success in business and not really be happy because he said he wasn't happy. So it's interesting, I think, when people don't really... Oh, another thing that he said too, which was he's lived both sides. He said having freedom is way more valuable than having money. Having freedom is way more valuable than having money. But what I was just about to say was, I think when people don't really see the two sides, or don't really see the two sides, they might see it. It's like looking at a book and seeing, a picture of a cloud and a sun, and then putting the book away, but you're not looking closely enough to see that, there's kids playing underneath, or there's green apples in the tree. You don't really see the detail. You're not really seeing the whole picture that way. I think when people don't really see both sides, it's very easy to go with the current, which is what the majority of people are doing. But it's nice when, like myself, I'm going against the current. I'm like a little salmon going against the current, and then I have a little fellow salmon with me, and you don't seem as crazy. And that's kind of the cool thing about traveling, is my thoughts of how to live and maintaining friendships and relationships seems crazy to most of the people that I have friendships and relationships with. But when I meet people and they say the same thoughts, but in words, without even me having to try to pry it out of them, it's like, okay, I'm not completely crazy. I'm just a rare breed. But this video is a little different because, as you can or cannot hear, it's raining. And it's been raining for, I think, 3 days now. Because usually I wake up, I go running. But most of the roads here are dirt and rocks, so do a little math there with rain, 3 millimeters of rain, you can kind of guess what happens to the roads. So it's not quite as fun as running when there's sunshine, but it is a little nice for the rain because you don't feel forced to just go to the beach and really enjoy the island. You can kind of have moments to think for yourself, really process things. And that was another thing too, which I noticed was the first few times I traveled, I learned a lot about myself. Okay, I'm a little loud. Okay, I can be a little rude in this area. Or you catch yourself doing things that other people aren't doing, and you're like, I really don't like that about myself, and you change. And I thought about this as I was walking to lunch yesterday, which was this trip, I tried to gain even like level 2 of self-awareness, but I think I've done it the first 2 trips, that now this trip, and it would be interesting if other travelers have noticed this too, but it goes from self-awareness and self-growth to reflection. And I'm at the point now where I'm just reflecting on my decisions, reflecting on the future, just reflecting on certain situations that have happened in the past, interactions that have happened, friendships. Working in a hostel, you meet a lot of people because they come in and out. In and out burger sounds good. But you get a lot of interactions with people, and you start to really realize how valuable friendships, real friendships are that you've made. And I think I've gotten really lucky in my life where I make a lot of genuine friendships easily until I started traveling. And then it was kind of like 100 cups on a table, and I keep lifting up cups, but there's nothing underneath. It's just nothing. But back home, when I would lift up a cup, there would be a little red fuzzy ball, and that would mean genuine friendship. But here, I am just lifting up cups, you know, and it gets a little tiring. And I think that was the point where I was a few weeks ago, where you're just like, at this point, I would rather just be with my own company. Because I found myself in this sort of weird social loop, which was I would meet people, and then I would find out that they were just either trying to use me for business, or use me to give them money, or use me to buy them meals every time. I don't mind buying meals, but every time, no. So then I would kind of get sick of people, and I would just want to be alone. But then after a week or so of being alone, I would be like, okay, I'll just go out for a beer by myself. But then as you're drinking, you want to talk to the people around you. And then you meet them again, meet more people again. And then you find out that they're just looking for money, or looking for you to eat at their restaurant, or looking for you to be of some sort of gain to them. So then you go back to, I just want to be alone. And I did this like maybe 4 times within like 3 weeks. I really did catch myself where I'm like, man, it's just so tiring. I remember one group was, I met these group of girls where I was playing pool, and they invited me to play. And their thing was they would dress up super fancy. I don't know if they borrowed their aunt's clothes or what, but just to seem like they have money. But then they would always stick me with the bill. And I'm like, okay, maybe they'll get the next one. And so we would go to a club together, and then they would buy or order the drinks, not buy, sorry. They would order the drinks. And I'm like, okay, maybe they're probably going to get this one. And then maybe half the group would leave, and then I would get stuck with the bill. Or just clever miscommunications. This one was the best one. We went to a club, and they had known I had just paid for the bottle of alcohol prior at the restaurant. And they go, hey, this girl goes, hey, do you want to do half and half? And points to a bottle on a menu, which comes out to like 80 USD. And I was like, I'll do half and half, that's fine. And she goes, okay. So then she goes over to her friend, and she goes, okay, he'll do half and half. And then I start thinking, I go, okay, wait, am I paying half? And then the 3 girls are splitting 1/2. And I'm like, whatever, that's fine. At least I have, local friends here. Not just people who don't know what they're doing. It's nice to have, the local intel. We're partying. End of the night comes. Bill gets handed to me. And I get handed the whole bill for the bottle. And I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I tell her, I go, whoa, 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 whoa. I go, this is the whole bill. I thought we were doing half and half. And she goes, yeah, half and half. She bought the hookah. You bought the bottle. Half and half. Mine was like 3,900 pesos. And I looked at hers. And as she's signing it, I see 1,309 pesos. And I'm like, either there was a real miscommunication, or they're really good at what they do. And that brought me back to the top of the loop of I just want to be alone. So that's about it. It's raining, can't really do much here, but